Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. I have a little bit of a hoarse throat today. My allergies are acting up pretty bad. Anyway, we have 4 stories out of the Entitled Parents subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is posted by TreeStar2018. I know the rules better than you. I'm calling my lawyer. So I'm the director of a daycare. I've been director for the last 8 years. This week, I've been dealing with an entitled mom who thinks she knows how to do my job better than I do. Her first problem was that we require all children to be fully vaccinated, and she doesn't want to vaccinate her child. I told her she could find care somewhere else. She complained that I violated her personal beliefs and breaking the law. No, I'm not. We have a right to turn away personal exemption cases. She decided she would vaccinate, but only because I'm forcing her to put poison in her child. Her second problem was that she didn't want to do the legwork to get tuition assistance from the state. She wants me to email DWS all her info and her child's start date. I told her we don't do it that way, and she needs to contact DWS and tell them her child is attending, and then they will contact us to verify. She has yet to call them, but calls me every day wondering why I haven't emailed DWS yet. Every day I tell her she needs to contact them. She gets mad and says it's my job to email them. We've had this conversation every day this week. Her third problem started just last night. Now she believes that she's making too much money to qualify for tuition assistance and wants her non-refundable registration fee refunded. I told her it's non-refundable. She told me that I have to return it because her daughter might not be starting since I didn't do my job and contact the state. I remind her it's her responsibility and that the contract she signed states that the fee is non-refundable. She told me I'm reading the contract wrong. She said that she will be talking to her lawyer about me breaking company rules and that I'm just picking on her because of her vaccination beliefs. I told her be my guest. I would be happy to talk to her lawyer about everything. She then told me we weren't good enough to take care of her angel and hung up on me. I'm glad I only had to deal with her for a week, but even a week was far too much. Edit to add. Her child never actually attended because she never called DWS and got the tuition assistance sent over to us. If you hear any mumbling in the background or any talking at all, it's a douchepod talking as loud as he can on his cell phone right in front of my house. So, sorry guys. I think the OP in this story actually dodged a bullet. I mean, could you imagine instead of Karen shirking her responsibility to get government assistance for paying for tuition, that she actually followed through? I mean, Karen would be a thorn in this person's side every single day. You could almost guarantee it. And also, what was that whole bit about getting a lawyer? Karen shouldn't be getting a lawyer to fight her frivolous lawsuit battles when she can't even pay for childcare for her own kid. Just saying. But what do you guys think? Please leave your comment in the comments section down below. Our next story is by Zulva AZ. Entitled neighbor calls the police because of a newspaper and it backfires. Too long, didn't read. Entitled neighbor tries to accuse us of throwing trash all over her property, but her cameras recorded the actual truth. Yes, this is true, and both my mom and I are laughing our butts off at this. The cast. M, my badass mother, Ian, entitled neighbor, me, well, you know who. So we live in the southwestern USA, which is like mini Australia, just without rainforests. In the state we reside in, it started to get hot. So my mother, M, and myself decided to go and grab some equipment our neighbors needed to assemble a fenced-in area so our dogs didn't accidentally enter our pool. During this time in May, we had an old desk we disassembled and put in an area away from the sidewalk. That way, no one can accidentally get injured by it. Here in my state, our sidewalk is separate from the left of the sidewalk by a 3-foot wide rock path that gets cut out every time driveway is there, and it repeats. We then called for service for the pickup for the remains of the desk and moved on. So we exit our house and we're about ready to enter the car when the entitled neighbor yells from her property and this beautiful conversation begins. Ian, you're going to frickin' move the wood or I'm gonna have to call the HOA. Me and my mom ignore her as we drove off to grab what we needed for our neighbor to work on our fence. When we returned, we noticed that she had decided to place the desk remains, the top of the desk and the bottom portion of it, on the driveway with the nails sticking up. That way we would get tire punctures and not see the desk. Well, she did a pretty bad job of it. As we get out of our car, we noticed a newspaper that wasn't ours. It appeared to have been thrown onto our property by entitled neighbor herself. So my mother, in her badassery, chucked the newspaper back on the entitled neighbor's property. Mind you, it didn't damage anything, it just landed on the rocks on her side of the property. After that, we moved the desk remains to the side of our house. That way we can place them back for the waste disposal guys. The newspaper throw pissed the entitled neighbor off, and an hour or two after we had gotten home, my mom gets a call. It's the police. The police, which I'm not listing as characters due to me not getting dialogue from the phone call, had called my mother saying that the entitled neighbor had called and said that we threw trash all over her property. Me and my mother laughed, and then she called the police officer back who had called her. The officer, who was very nice and understanding, answers the call, and my mother explains our side of the story and her saying that I was a witness of this. We also told him about one thing, the entitled neighbor's cameras. You see, the entitled neighbor has cameras around her property and one of those Ring doorbell systems. One of those cameras that just happens to show our driveway and the area where the remains of the desk were. And you know what that means? Yep, she possibly recorded herself not only placing the desk parts on our driveway, one of which was facing up with nails exposed, but she also accidentally recorded herself throwing the newspaper on our property and my mother throwing it back. Now, I'm unsure if any punishment will be used, as we haven't gotten a call back, but if we do, I will surely update you guys. And the reason I call my mother a badass is the fact that not only does she act like one, being a 5'3", a full foot shorter than me, and she also survived cancer twice and raised in a tough as nails county up in the northwestern US. Edit 1. Okay, so I asked my mom about the situation with the police, and she expressed to me that it was resolved since it was confirmed that the entitled neighbor had put those desk remains in our driveway with malicious intent, as well as that it was shown that the entitled neighbor threw the newspaper into our front yard and us throwing it back about an hour later. During a conversation between my mother and the officer, he said something to the entitled neighbor along the lines of, "What they did wasn't illegal, but what you did was." We decided not to press charges since she has a very nice kid that she has joint custody over with, I believe, the kid's father, and we didn't want to ruin her life over something so ridiculous. And the situation was ridiculous. I mean, if the entitled neighbor had a problem with it, then why not go over and talk to the OP and their mother? They seem reasonable. Maybe ask them to refrain from putting the desk out so early, or maybe put the desk out when the waste disposal people are there to pick it up. I mean, there's several different ways the entitled neighbor could have dealt with this, but it's like they chose the ways that make their life the most difficult. And the entitled neighbor was really lucky that the OP was reasonable, because if the OP was as vindictive as the entitled neighbor was, the entitled neighbor would probably be in jail and probably lose custody of her kid. And really, was it worth it in the end? Probably not. But what do you guys think? Please leave your comment in the comment section down below. If you've been watching until here and are enjoying my content, please put some heart emojis in the comment section down below. Our next story is by JC Lomo, not yet a parent and already entitled. First, some background. I work as a property manager. Here in Australia, it's compulsory for people to pay into a Super Anniston fund for retirement from their weekly pay. Most often, this is invested into a fund that is managed by a bank. There is an opportunity for people to have a self-managed super fund that often people who self-manage invest in property and rent out the investment property. This does not mean that they are wealthy people. They often have large mortgages on their own homes because of the way the government has structured the super funds. Often, just hard-working average people trying to get by in life. To the story, a tenant called me and let me know that she's pregnant. She's only been a tenant in the property for 4 months. She said it's a high-risk pregnancy, so she has to give up work. She then asked if the owners could waive the rent for the next 3 months, as she won't be able to afford it. For some reason, she considers it fair and reasonable to ask for a free place to live because she's pregnant. Somehow, she really thinks her financial situation is a stranger's responsibility. Currently, in Australia, people impacted by the virus can get mortgage holidays and help from the government, but not for normal life, and not not for being pregnant. In this circumstance, neither the owner nor the tenants would be eligible for government provisions because of the virus. What is her plan in 4 months when she becomes a parent? More free rent? Child is not even born yet and she's already acting entitled. Too long, didn't read. Woman asks for free rent because she's pregnant. Why do I feel like this could be a cross post into the Choosing Beggar subreddit? I think as soon as the baby's born, I think this woman is going to keep trying to get free rent because she doesn't think that she should have to pay. And it'd probably be best for the property owner to put their foot down and say, no, you have to find accommodations elsewhere, or you need to get a job to pay for your apartment. But what do you guys think? Please leave your comment in the comment section down below. Our final post is by Diet Coke of Evil 73. EM thinks property lines shouldn't apply to her kids. I live in a small neighborhood that was newly built and marketed for empty nesters. So the homes are all 1 story and the yards are pretty small. There are a few families with elementary age kids, but they are definitely the minority. Last week, our neighborhood received an email from a homeowner that lives next to our neighborhood. He had 2 young kids from our neighborhood playing on his back porch when he got up that morning. When he spoke with them, they asked to play in his yard, and he told them no, and that they needed to go home. Later, he saw the kids again playing on his property, very close to a waterway that was overflowing due to all the rain. He said he didn't know whose kids they were, but felt that they were too young to be unsupervised and asked the neighborhood to please respect his property. Not long after, we received a reply email from the entitled mom in our neighborhood. She goes on a rant about how she's tired of people complaining about her kids playing in their yard and messing up their flower beds. If we didn't want kids around, then we should have moved to a retirement community. And then, my favorite part, that we should be happy she's raising kids to play outside. She didn't apologize to the property owner, but instead chastised him for embarrassing her and the other parents by emailing everyone and saying, after all, the kids did ask to come and play. So apparently, to this woman, it doesn't matter if the kids were told no. They should be allowed to run free through everyone's property because they chose to buy a house with almost no yard of their own. Oh, boo-hoo. Karen got called out for being a negligent parent and not supervising her small children. The fact that her kids asked permission is irrelevant because the answer was no. They came back anyway and decided to play when they were told not to. Karen's lucky that the homeowner didn't just decide to call the police and say that there's 2 kids running around his property and he has no idea who they belong to. Maybe Karen getting a talking to by a police officer might give her enough of a reality check that she needs to watch her kids. And it's not everybody else's fault that she bought a house that doesn't have a yard for her kids to play in. Anyway, what do you guys think? Please leave your comment in the comment section down below. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit posts will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my content, please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I've uploaded new videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.